So I wonder if you might ponder with me this morning how we might come together as a church, maybe at some point in the future, to develop programs that might focus on our spiritual practices. Or, to put it a different way, I wonder if you might ponder with me this morning what Christian spiritual practice might look like for us in today's modern world. I just felt led to think about that, especially over this last year. Over the course of our sabbatical this last summer, Kim and I were able to more fully participate one week in the practice of prayer and meditation by participating in this 5-day online wisdom school that's offered by author and Episcopalian priest Cynthia Bourgeau. And so every morning for 5 days straight, we arose very early. Kim usually doesn't get up as early as I do. But we arose very early in the morning for morning prayer and meditation. And then for a morning teaching on, as it turned out, the Gospel of Thomas in this case. And then an afternoon teaching and an action. And then each day concluded with evening prayer and meditation as well. And so to be able to come together for 5 days, at least 3 times a day, to pray and to learn and to reflect, was one of the very unexpected graces and surprises of our sabbatical together. But I suppose one of the biggest reasons why I have felt led to think about spiritual practice is because I've started to feel as though this may be the most relevant need that we as the church today might be able to fill for folks, especially in this very fast-paced, as we know, and perpetually plugged-in world in which we live. As you know, I'm sort of a big picture guy, right? And when I look at the big picture, what I know and what you also obviously know is that the church has basically been dying, right? For the last, or the better part of 50 or 60 years. And yet, at the same time, having said that, what I also know, and you know as well, is that there are some churches this morning who are packed to the gills with people, right? And we certainly celebrate with those churches for whom that is the case. But the fact is that those churches really are fewer and further between and really are anomalies when you think about the big picture of things. And the reality more so is that 75% of the American public simply isn't in church on Sundays or Saturdays or any other time during the week. And I just come to think, as the author of our midweek book study, Brian McLaren, argues, that one of the biggest reasons, not the only reason to be sure, but one of the biggest reasons why this is the case, is because the church across denominational and non-denominational lines has basically said that doctrines, church doctrines, and beliefs are what most define us as being a Christian. And as McLaren says in his book, we may need doctrines and beliefs, or doctrines and beliefs are one thing, but faith is a completely different thing. Those are two very different things, and we may need doctrine and belief, but we need faith infinitely more than those things. And this is where, therefore, spiritual practice to me comes in. And it's where, as it turns out, Jesus' story of the persistent widow in our scripture this morning comes in as well. As we heard, Jesus closes his story of this persistent widow by asking the question, will he find faith on earth? And that is what is most important, right? The issue, you see, is not whether or not we have a thought or whether or not somebody has the correct thought about God or the correct doctrine, some correct thought about some elaborate doctrine, for example, of the Trinity or of salvation or heaven or hell. And instead, the issue very simply is, in spite of the great injustice that we all experience in the world, do we have faith or not? Do we have faith that life is inherently good and full of grace or not? Do we have faith that there is an abiding force for good and love, which is God, and which brings great meaning and purpose and unity in all of creation, while there also exists another force that always seems to be working to divide and separate everything into categories of black and white? And even more than that, the issue is not so much do we have faith in the midst of the world's injustices, the world's out there, but do we have faith, and will we keep that faith when that injustice is visited exactly upon us? And sometimes it seems lasts forever. The persistent widow in Jesus' story obviously was a victim of great injustice. She had no voice, she had no vote, and she had no right in her patriarchal society. If one of her male relatives was not going to care for her, then her whole culture and society wasn't going to care for her. And unfortunately, even though, as we heard, she decided to take her case to court, the court was also set up for men only as well. And yet, as we heard, day after day after day, she came and spoke up for herself in the face of this system that was totally set up against her. She came and spoke up anyway to a system that had no thinking whatsoever of ever really helping her. Now, of course, as we know, she could have instead just sort of shriveled up in a little ball somewhere and died. She could have resorted or turned to all kinds of crime or thievery in order to get what she needed in order to survive. She could have let her heart turn to stone and become completely hopeless. And who among us would have blamed her if she would have turned to any of those things? But that's not what she did. Instead, she had this deep internal faith somehow that I would say was nurtured through some deep spiritual practice, that she mattered and that she had a voice, maybe not in the world, but she had a voice with God. And she was worth something, and life was worth fighting for. And even if she could do nothing else, she could at least cry out for justice. I would just say that this woman, or actually any woman throughout history that has been in her shoes, think, for example, of Jesus' own mother, Mary, or Mary Magdalene, or in more recent times, historical figures like Susan B. Anthony and the suffrage movement, or Rosa Parks and the civil rights movement. Women who have suffered great injustice, and unfortunately, as we know, too many of whom still do today, could not have persisted and or are not persisting without deep faith and spiritual practice. And so, it's so very important, I think, in our world today for you and I to continue to grow and to learn in our own spiritual practices. As we heard, Jesus said that he told this story of the widow in the first place so that the disciples would do what? Pray always and not lose heart. And I just sort of want to whisper that message to the 75% of the folks who are not in any church on Sundays. I don't want to whisper messages about church doctrine or anything like that, right? Instead, I want to whisper to the miner, for example, who has lost his job in eastern Kentucky, to pray always and not lose heart with God. I want to whisper to the parents in drug-infested North City to pray always and not lose heart with God. I want to whisper to the young professional who has already seen and learned that the rat race will never ever be able to meet the deepest needs for meaning and purpose that she has, and therefore to pray always and not lose heart. I want to whisper to all of the seniors who are out there this morning, all by themselves, all alone, to pray always and not lose heart. I just don't care very much at all about what somebody thinks in their head, but I do care deeply about all people being able to withstand and endure the injustices of life and continue on with the deep faith that life nonetheless is inherently good and full of grace. I do care about people knowing more deeply in their hearts that they have love and peace and hope within them in spite of this unjust and sometimes gut-wrenching world in which we live. And I care deeply about all people knowing that they matter and that they have a voice with God, even when the world or the ways of the world make them feel like they don't. Very simply, the wisdom of Jesus, as we know, not one time in the Gospels did Jesus say, "Let me sit down and talk to you today about the doctrine of the Trinity." Okay? He was not trying to teach us doctrines. He was instead trying to teach us faith. The conscious way of nurturing within our hearts through spiritual practice that even in spite of all the world's evidence to the contrary, there is nonetheless great meaning and purpose and inherent grace and goodness in all of life and in each of our lives. The kind of faith that he was lifting up in this persistent widow, this tiny but mighty woman who had the deep internalized faith to stand up in a world that was completely stacked against her. And so very simply, may God help us to continue to grow all the days of our life in faith and spiritual practice. Amen.